What's going on, Thrallers? Miller here, and it's that time of year, the end of the year, as we close one chapter and open another here soon. But before we close that chapter, we have to give a top list. What kind of channel would it be? What kind of fans would we be if we didn't have like a top list of something? And this is my personal top 10 list now. I went through this and really thought about what I listened to, what I kept going back to, what's kind of in my playlist a lot. Some of them may have fell through the cracks a little bit. I know there was some that were really close. Really dig the I Hate God album that just came out this year. But we got to narrow it down. I did 10. I know Nick and John do like a million. But I really honed it down to 10. This year's been really busy, as you guys have seen or not seen me on the channel. A lot of life changes, house, baby, all that stuff. So with all that being said, let's get down to it. Number 10, Inhuman Condition, Rat God. And this is just like 30 minutes of riff-tastic headbanging perfection. And I dig the old school vibe to it. I think Ren had mentioned it in his. It's just got that real late 80s, early 90s death thrash feel to it, and it just kind of this year's been a real nostalgia year for me with a lot of things, music and movies. Ghostbusters just came out, so that hit me in the feels a little bit, and Inhuman Condition hits those notes too, those nostalgia feels. Killing Pace is freaking sweet. I kind of felt about this album the same way I felt about Skeleton Pit when I found those guys last year from Lust to Lynch. Just a good old thrashy metal album that's just top-notch in its category. If you haven't checked it out, certainly do so. And number 9, Frozen Soul. Again, this year for me is a big death metal theme. I've been getting that a little bit more than even so in the past. But Frozen Soul, I first got wind, went down to the Dallas-Fort Worth area for my birthday. And I came across this place called La Casa Retro. It's a little cool retro clothing, vintage vinyl shop. It's got a lot of knickknacks. Pretty cool shop to really just peruse around and just find some weird random shit that's cool. And what really got me was Vanessa, the owner there. She's fantastic. Great gal to talk to. Really, really fucking cool chick. But she told me that, hey, have you heard Frozen Soul? And I know those guys, and got me hip to it, and then came back, mentioned it to John, and John's like, yeah, of course, we reviewed it. And I'm like, fuck, I didn't even see it. It's great death metal. I really dug this album. It rose up in the ranks. I listened to it more and more. The band wears their influences on their sleeve, and they're not ashamed of it. They come out, and it's great. They do a really good job of honoring those heroes that they look up to without blatantly copying their riffs or anything like that. It's just a really good, fun listen. And for a first release, holy shit, man, these guys just came out and made me all feel like all morbid angel-y inside. So that always is a good feeling to have. Number 8, Go Ahead and Die. The Cavalera family continues their relentless metal quest with the new band, Max and Son. You saw the review we had earlier on this. We all really love this album, love the sound of it, the feel of it. Again, going back to that old 90s pre-death metal era of thrash, punk, just aggressive music that was kind of like an FU to society with the lyrics, and this is like fits that to a T. And I love the sound of it. It's a little grittier. There are bands that do that, kind of have make that feeling come across without that level of grit and kind of dirt on top of it, but it was a cool feel. It felt like popping in a cassette in 92 and just jamming, It's a great album. Give it a listen to, and I can't wait to see what the guys come up with next. 7 is Beast, whatever, the Danish death metal group. And man, these guys came out of left field for me a little bit. I'd heard of them because they've been around a few years, but I never listened to them until this album. And man, this album is killer. And again, another album that just continuously kept growing on me as I listened to it. I kind of dig the mid-tempo death metal thing. I know a lot of people probably don't, but I get into that. I don't like super high speed, aggressive all the time. but the productivity is great, which makes it easy to listen to. I think this would be a good candidate for like one of those death metal for beginner videos that Nick started doing. So Beast Necrosapiens is definitely one of those albums that I think could fit into that pretty easily. They do a really good job of marrying the two death metals, the big ones that I like, the Swedish and the US. They do a good job of merging those two together. There's a lot of bands that try to do that, but they don't do it with as great of an effect as this band does. And they got a bright future. I'm looking forward to their releases. Go check that album out, Necrosapiens from Beast. Number 6 is another Texas band. I think they're from the Fort Worth area as well, with Frozen Soul. My brother got me hip to them not too long ago, and I listened to the album, and I listened to it again, and I listened to it again, and I really just fell in love with it. It was sitting, after the first couple listens, it was sitting around 10 or 9. But man, I just keep listening to the damn album. It really grows on me. I guess the name of the band and the album would probably help. Astionix is the band name, and the album is Extreme Antinatalist Design. Antinatalist. Natalist. And I know Astionix from my geeky college days of just worldly cultures I was into, Greek being one of them. Astionix was the son of Hector, the Prince of Troy, but the nerd in me kind of thinks that this is a reference to the old NES game. It was I think it was released in Japan originally, but it was a side-scroller dungeon type Castlevania type game where dude battles a dark wizard and stuff like that. If you happen to be in the band and are watching this whole thing, let us know in the comments where you got the name from, which one was it. But when you combine good death metal with good groove, some good solos in there, you get a great album. The names of the songs are great. They're fun. Systlicker is a great song. Ejaculating Feces is a really great thrashy feel, but still delivers on the death aspect of things. They also sprinkle in some grooves here and there, too. Songs like Gruesome Spontaneous Conflagration does a good job of that. But this band is new to me. I've never heard of them. My brother came across them. I don't even know how the hell I came across them. But I really dig these guys. I listen to the album more and more, and the more I listen to it, the more I like it. So, which is why I went up to number 6. It's actually pretty high. Number 5, Enforced Kill Grid. I know this made a lot of lists, and for good reason. This is a great album. It's got a Slayer, Sepultura, Kill 'Em All kind of feel to it. It takes me back to the 80s, 90s. There's a theme here, I think. And I don't think it's just with me. I think a lot of people are going back to the older stuff. Everything now is kind of sounding the same. It's just got a same feel or vibe or you know, it's just kind of everything just kind of molds together into one blah, 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 blah. And I dig the albums that kind of stand out from that, and a lot of these have that older feel to them, the early 90s stuff like that, late 80s thrash stuff I'm into, stuff I still listen to every day. You know, there's not a week that goes by that I don't listen to Pantera or Slayer or Iron Maiden or whatever. So, Enforced Kill Grid, it has the feel and soul of that stuff, but with a little bit better, cleaner production, as opposed to like Go Ahead and Die. They still have those. They have the same feels that I get from those two albums, but this one is just a little cleaner production-wise. Makes it a little easier to listen to. UXO, that song I just keep going back to. The song's killer. It's catchy as shit. Number 4, Archspire, Bleed the Future. And this one surprised me, made my list, because I'm not a huge technical death metal fan. This was one that me and Jam and John reviewed. I really like this album because they are known for their absurd precision and their technicality and stuff like that, but they do a great job of hooking in these grooves and hooks and stuff that makes you come back to it. You know, a lot of it's going at blistering speed, but it just all fits together really well to create a groove, even though the drums may be going at like crazy BPM or the guitars are just flying. You know, when all that stuff comes together cohesively, it makes for a weird groove and a weird feeling to the song. And I really dig what they achieved with this song. You can tell they really thought about the writing and thought through it and Abandon the Linear is good. Golden Mouth of Ruin. And Drain Incartation, they do some of that atmospheric stuff, but they do it really well. They don't overdo it like some of the releases this year. They're also not afraid to let some of these riffs play out and not be so concerned with changing it every 4 bars, just something different. They kind of write a riff a little bit, then they come back to it. They make hints here and there with their other riffs. There'll be pieces of a riff from the beginning of the song. They'll tie into a riff toward the end of the song. It's just a really smart way of writing music, and I really dig these guys. Number 3, Carcass, Torn Arteries. And this, I'm just going to say it, I'm a Carcass fanboy. I'm going to be a sucker for every album they put out, and it's going to be kind of biased, but this is my top 10. And Torn Arteries is, again, it's just back to the old school. It's just Carcass. Everything you love about Carcass, everything you love about death thrash, it's all in here. The vocals are great. They're clean. You can understand everything. The guitars are just mesmerizing, some of the stuff they came up with. And it's just from front to back, a solid album. It's a great listen all the way through. One of the few albums that I will listen to, hit start at the first and go through it. It's a great album to listen to on vinyl, because you're kind of forced to go through the whole album and experience the whole thing. It's what I like vinyl. You're kind of forced to experience the whole thing. And this is the whole thing. Carcass, in a nutshell. Great album. I love it. And it will continue to be in my playlist for a long time. I guarantee it. Number 2 on this list, 12-Foot Ninja and Vengeance. You've heard me blab about nostalgia and blah, 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 blah. This album incorporates all that and just wraps it all up, and not just metal and pop and like funk and these weird grooves and choruses, and it's just mesmerizing, his vocals. And unfortunately, by the time I recorded this, Nick Barker is now out of the band due to differences with one of the other members. I didn't read into it too much because I just don't read into other people's shit. That's just not my thing. So I wish the best to all the guys involved. They're really talented people, and we'll see what they do after this and see who they get to replace him, because, man, that's a tough fill. That is a tough fill. And it's hard to get lucky and fill those shoes adequately, but we'll see what they do. They got great musicianship and really diverse styles, and they, again, not afraid to show those styles and their influences and what they like and what they're into. And it doesn't matter if it fits into that metal category or that metal definition. They're not afraid to branch out, and they do it really well, and they incorporate all these different sounds so smoothly and effortlessly. It's kind of I don't know, I'm kind of jealous of their ability to just bring all these different crazy ideas together and make it a cohesive thing that's easy to listen to. Because there are bands that do crazy shit and just pull stuff out of left field, but man, it's just hard to listen to. This is not. This is quite the opposite. This is a well-constructed album, and it's one of my favorites. And number 1, for me, personally, Cannibal Corpse, Violence Unimagined. I've listened to this album more out of anything this year. Just hook-ridden. I don't know. It's just everything I like about Cannibal Corpse, everything I like about heavy music, death metal. It's got all these things. It's Eric Rutan and Corpse Grinder and Paul and Alex. I mean, it's just a crazy amount of talent in this band, and they put together a phenomenal album with phenomenal leads. The guitar work is great. The writing is great. Corpse Grinder's on a tear. That guy is amazing vocalist. And the fact that he can do what he does, and you can hear him, and his enunciation, his cadence, his delivery, the speed matches what the speed of Paul's drums is doing. And it's just everything good. Everything good. And I should have rated this a 5. It is definitely a 5 in my book. And if I could go back, change that 4.5 to a 5, I would. But nonetheless, this was my top 10. And a big thank you to everybody, all the new subscribers, all the people that have been here with us for a long time. We truly appreciate everything. We're over 9,000 now, which is great. And we're going to keep this train moving, keep the ball going, and see where it takes us. So if you enjoy the videos, enjoy what we do, hit subscribe, hit like, and get a hold of us in the comments. Nick, I think, is the best responder of comments in YouTube history. I don't know of many channels where a dude responds to almost literally every comment. It's crazy. Yeah, I pop my head into the live premieres from time to time, chat with the guys that are there almost every day. Yeah, that'll about wrap this up for me. I hope you all had a Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year. And until next time.